Hello, I'm Jared, and this is my fourth panic attack blog. It's been quite a while since my last one of these, both panic attacks and panic attack blogs. Let's see, this is January the 10th, and went through the spate of Christmas panic attacks, and then I was fine, and had Christmas holidays with family, and it was all fine. Um, And then just this evening, I started to have another one because part of what was going on with yesterday was I was moving around a lot, and uh, we were taking down decorations in the church, and just carrying stuff around and a lot of travel, and because of that, I was uncomfortable because of my previous infection, which involves a lot of rest afterwards because you can be sore after the antibiotics. However, every time I have a little bit of that discomfort, I get a little bit worried. Um, but for whatever reason, today, or this evening, I should say, my my level of anxiety rose. And so I was online playing video games and chatting back and forth with an old friend who I hadn't heard from in a long while, and he and his wife both have panic attacks. And I told him my symptoms, which were nausea, sleeplessness, and worry. And he very helpfully said, "Well, that's a pretty tough deal, because his panic attacks are not that. Um, they're the more standard symptoms, as opposed to my big one of nausea, which is just really annoying." Um, but then my wife suggested that actually, the last time I had the spate of panic attacks, my wife suggested that I read this, and and I did. Um, and that was very helpful. When I saw a therapist, I think a lot of what he told me was the sort of thing that was in the book, and things that I knew objectively, but not necessarily things that, when you know them objectively, penetrate the panic attack to arrive in your understanding, or at least in mine. So I took a half a Xanax and did a little bit of reading, and here I am, making another one of these little personal unburdenings. Uh, so I just write it out, and I think I think it's kind of interesting to say that uh, when I had my lung collapse 3 years ago, 2 years ago, something like that, which it's a fairly unusual thing to happen, but it's more or it's not quite as uncommon with tall, low weight men under the age of 40, which I am all of those things. So when I had the lung collapse, went to the hospital and got it all taken care of, and went back home. But when I was talking with the doctor who put in the chest tube, and afterwards, he was telling me that it's unlikely that it would happen again, but you should just go forth with your life and not worry about it. Um, and I said, "Well, what if it does happen again?" And he said, "Well, then you'll come in for surgery, and they'll need to fix it. But don't worry about it." And I said, "How do I not worry about that?" And he said, "You may get hit by a car tomorrow. That the future is unknown, and you can't know what's going to be down the road. It's more constructive to be secure in the fact that you can't know, and to have confidence in your own capacity to weather whatever difficulties you happen to be facing." And my wife told me, and it was very helpful at the time, that my collapsed lung was just 100 times worse than her hysterectomy. Because with her hysterectomy, she went in, she hopped up on the table. They said, "Here, have some oxygen," and the next thing she knew, she was in the recovery room with me. As opposed to my business, which I was awake for the chest tube, and that was all very harrowing. But not having a therapist anymore, and using something like this, which you see them in Walmart all the time, and you're dismissive of, or you may be dismissive of self-help books, and then you find something that's really just very helpful. How significant do you perceive the threat to be? Realistically, not very high. Um, I know that I had an infection. I know that I took the medication and the antibiotics for it, and I know that after the medication is over, bed rest is indicated. If I don't take the bed rest, I'm uncomfortable again. So the possibility of it being something else and something worse is fairly low. Your own perceived ability to cope. How well can you manage the problem? Well, I have I have a good family. I'm generally healthy, and my wife and I will face whatever it is. So that's where I am. Hopefully, feeling better again tomorrow, but for the moment, on Xanax and a little nauseous and a little worried about nothing that's actually worthy of worry. But I'm worrying anyway.